Hello everyone, this is Pastor Rance with Prophetic Sword Ministries International. I publish a blog at lastdaysreview.blogspot.com. I want to wish you all a happy 4th of July today and an important day in America's history. The Declaration of Independence from King George III was signed on the 4th of July in 1776. And I'm going to compare that a little bit later on today with some things that are happening in the Middle East and Israel. During and after that time, the newly created nation of the United States of America had to fight many bloody wars to preserve its independence. Among those were the Civil War, the American Indians Plain Wars, and a number of wars with Mexico, in which major areas of the current United States were eventually ceded by Mexico to the United States in the year of 1848. Many people do not realize, however, that the United States actually paid $15 million for this property. Those areas of Mexico that Mexico originally controlled are much larger than history remembers today. It was all of California, Nevada, Utah, most of Arizona, one half of New Mexico, 1/4 of Colorado, part of Wyoming, and eventually the entire state of Texas. An important point to remember, because this applies a little later on when I'm talking to you about Israel, is that the United States paid for this land. Now, can you imagine what would happen today if there was a hue and cry and a call for the United States to give back those lands to Mexico? It would not happen, ever. Now let's consider a similar story on the other side of the planet. Israel was formed on May the 14th, 1948. It is the only nation that came back from the ash heap of history after it was destroyed by two different nations, first one being Babylon and the second one being the Roman Empire. Its people were scattered throughout the entire world, and now, according to Scripture and prophetic fulfillment, are coming back into the land of Israel to not only live there, but also to occupy the land that God gave them according to Scripture. Now, unlike the United States, Israel is now being pressured to give back to other countries land that Israel took from them during several wars. The first war, they were attacked in 1948, and then again in 1967, and then in 1973. It would be unheard of for the United States to give land back that we took from a nation that attacked us. And it's impossible for me to believe that the nations of the world expect Israel to give back land to nations that attacked her. Israel declared independence on May 14, 1948. And when it declared independence, it was immediately and viciously attacked by several Arab armies. This was repeated in various forms also again in 1967 and in 1973. But during the past 69 years, Israel has been forced to defend herself in one way or another in a minimum of 15 armed conflicts. Each and every time Israel has been attacked, she has prevailed over her enemies by the grace of God and has captured more and more territory. But I would like to make a point about that, because the Bible tells us that God gave this territory to Israel in an everlasting covenant that was given to Abraham and renewed to Isaac and renewed to Jacob, whose name was changed by God to Israel many centuries ago. There is a feeling today among many that Israel is stealing Arab land, but that is not the case. Israel, in fact, has a very small portion today of what God gave her many generations ago. Unlike the United States' struggles to establish a new homeland back in 1776, Israel is now being pressured to give back land that was captured by nations who attacked her. Several U.S. presidents have pressured Israel to give up land for peace, something that has never worked for anybody in the entire history of the world. The reason for this is because the world wants to provide a homeland for the Palestinian people. And I think they deserve a homeland too, but not in the nation of Israel. Today, many people do not realize that a nation was in fact created for the Palestinian people in the year of 1922 by the League of Nations, which was the precursor to the United Nations today. The nation that was created was called Transjordan, and the purpose was to establish an Arab state east of the Jordan River, with areas west of the Jordan River reserved for a Jewish national homeland. The problem is that the indigenous Arab populations west of the Jordan River were never, ever invited to go to Transjordan, and eventually, which eventually, by the way, became the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, which is still in place today. The bottom line is, folks, it is not Israel who is denying a national homeland to the Palestinians. It is the Arab people themselves who refuse to give a very small portion of their territory to the Palestinian people today. And believe me, they can afford to do so. I'd just like to give you a couple of things to think about before we close today. First of all, Israel right now has a population of about 8 million people, many of whom are Muslims, with a land mass of about 8,000 square miles. They are currently surrounded by an Arab landmass of 3,500,000 square miles and a population that exceeds 221 million people, most of whom claim that they are enraged because tiny Israel is stealing their land. Really? I don't think so. This land was given to Israel and much more. In fact, if we were to look at a map today, you would see that all of the land east of the Nile River, all the way over to halfway into Saudi Arabia, all the way up to the bottom of Turkey, is all Israeli land that they have not yet claimed. The United Nations regularly passes anti-Israel rhetoric while not passing any legislation whatsoever dealing with human rights violations in Arab countries. During the reign of King Solomon, there was a special hill upon which he housed his thousands of wives and concubines. It is called the Hill of Evil Counsel. Guess what is located on that hill today? United Nations offices in Israel. Things to think about for those of us who are Americans who are celebrating our Day of Independence. This is Pastor Ant signing off for Prophetic Sword Ministries. Please take time this week to look up my blog at lastdaysreview.blogspot.com or listen to my wife Brandy as she reads an article on our podcast channel. Thank you and God bless. Bye.